Are you brand new to the aquarium hobby and you're just starting out? Well, in today's episode of the Coral Reef Talk podcast, we are talking about our first reef aquariums, our first aquariums in general, how we got started. And by we, I have today on the show Levi Peterson, the oddball reefer. Levi, how's it going?
Hey guys, it's going good. I'm excited to be here.
So today we're talking all about how we got started in the hobby and the different tanks that we had leading up to kind of where we are today. So if you'd like to jump right into that, go ahead and how did you get into the aquarium hobby? What fascinated you about it? And kind of like what were your first tanks looking like?
Yeah. So, hi, my name's Levi Peterson. I kind of started out in the hobby. I've always been kind of like an aquarist. My parents have had tanks ever since I was super young. So I kind of got into it that way. We would always take yearly vacations down to Florida, and I was just always intrigued with like saltwater. So once I was old enough to like drive and having my own job, I started working for like a local pet store, and I started off with freshwater. I had like at least 10, maybe even 15 freshwater tanks in my room, a little more than my parents wanted me to have. But the addiction hit real fast. And then my store that I was working for, they had saltwater too. So they kind of helped me get into it, helped me get set up with my first tank, with the refugium and everything. They helped me out a lot. So I was able to get started in the saltwater realm of things. Started out just kind of just bare rock, no coral, no nothing, fish only for the start. Started off with a couple clownfish, and then I immediately wanted a second saltwater tank. So I kind of jumped into a small little 10-gallon. All that I was just going to do like some soft corals, keep it real simple because it was small. And that's really all I had room for other than my 75-gallon. Because I mean, my room was big, but I didn't really have any more space for like a bigger aquarium. So I had a 75-gallon that I started off in originally, and then I branched off into another 10-gallon where I was just going to keep normal like soft corals and stuff. With my 75, I ended up going a different route pretty quick. I fell in love with non-photosynthetic corals. Then I just kind of jumped into that, got to know Chad from Reef Nutrition. He helped provide a lot of the foods to help keep those corals alive. And it kind of just branched me off into the hobby in a different kind of niche way, keeping different things. People were super intrigued. I was learning as well as kind of teaching other people how to keep certain corals. And a lot of these corals just like you don't see them too often. I mean, they're around, but they're just super different. And
like I think that's pretty fascinating. Like you started with like 15 freshwater tanks. I guess you do hear a lot. People get into freshwater first and then they convert over to saltwater. My story is a little bit different. I jumped right into saltwater. So I was working overnight at a copy and print center, and I was constantly on YouTube all the time because like 2-3 o'clock in the morning, no one's coming in to get prints, right? So I finished all my work. So what am I going to do? I'm on YouTube looking up saltwater aquariums and like seeing clownfish, yellow tangs, like corals, like just the colors attracted me to the hobby. I know there's a lot of colorful fish in the freshwater scene, but I don't know, with corals I think there's a lot more colors. What do you think?
yeah, for sure, 100%.
Yeah, so okay, so you jumped into the more odd, unique corals. What's some of your favorites?
I want to say the first odd coral, you should say, that kind of really got me into the odd corals was a chili coral. They're red and they have like whitish polyps. They can come in orange, pink, and yellow as well. But I also really fell in love with the Christmas tree corals. They're really cool. They come in like pure white or kind of like a brownish black color. They kind of close up during the day and open up to like a Christmas tree shape at night. They're really cool. I love those things. I still have this specimen that he's showing you today. Yep.
Okay, that's what this guy is right here. Nice.
Yep. So super unique, just kind of different. I mean, that's like I said, that's kind of why I branched out towards this kind of side of the hobby. It's just different. A lot of weird corals that you don't see in normal hobby. And then I got into gorgonians, especially Indo-Pacific gorgonians. And lots of different species of gorgonians, and you even got Cerapathes right there, the wire coral in the front. It's like green. Tentacles are really cool. And then you got a little Disticopora in the back. And then, this is probably one of my most prized possessions that I ever had. This is in the Canthogorgia. It's like pink with yellow tips. It's a really pretty gorgonian. They come out of the Indo-Pacific. I wish I still had the specimen. That was one of my favorites.
Yeah, gorgonians are pretty awesome looking.
Yeah, like I said,
What
just
are
something different that you just don't
Mhm.
see. White light. That kind of just got me into like white light tanks, because now I'm keeping like gorgonians, photosynthetic, and just a whole different scheme of things. So
Yeah. And so for those listening that are probably they've never kept gorgonians, or they don't really know like what's some of the differences like between these and like a soft coral or something.
So I want to say between a soft coral, gorgonians have a lot more of like calcified bodies, I should say. If like a gorgonian, if you find like a dried up gorgonian on the beach or whatever, it's almost gonna like feel like wood texture, a little bit different. They're unique. Obviously, they use that skeletal structure to kind of branch and to kind of stay like a little more stiff, so they're not just going crazy, you know. But yeah, I mean, they're just super different. They're weird, differentiating from soft corals. I want to say, like I said, the skeletal structure, and then I want to say they usually have a ton of polyps, which is kind of cool. Depending on what species you're looking at and stuff. Also, with the gorgonians, you have like photosynthetic and non-photosynthetic. Same thing with pretty much all other types of corals. In my opinion, the non-photosynthetic ones tend to be a lot more pretty, which is all these gorgs that we just showed you are all non-photosynthetic. So super unique, super weird, super cool. Like I said, that's just what I'm into. So
Yeah. That's that's very awesome. Like do you find the non-photosynthetic stuff to be more challenging to keep because you have to be there to feed them and you have a
yeah,
feeding schedule?
yeah. You
Yeah.
definitely got to pay more attention to them. Like right now, I feed mine at least 3 times a day before I leave to work. Usually right when I get home from work, and then right before I go to bed, I give it a good dose. Just an assortment of reef nutrition foods. Yeah, they all do really amazing. Certain ones are definitely harder to keep than others, and I've had my ups and downs with certain species of corals kind of over the years. Just kind of
Mhm.
learning and seeing how they do and seeing what I can do better and stuff. So
Yeah, really cool. So, what was like your first, I guess, saltwater fish, or maybe even just like your favorite types of fish? Because you do species specific tanks and stuff like that. So,
yeah, like right now, I got a bunch of different tanks that have specific things in it. But I want to say, like, my first ever fish was the Oscillarius clownfish. I had two Oscillarius clownfish in the 75 when I was first like getting it going, just the clownfish and a bunch of rock. And then I kind of got some like nocturnal species for the non-photosynthetic tank because the light wasn't on all the time, so they'd be out swimming about during like the middle of the night or even during the middle of the day when I didn't have the lights on. It was pretty cool. So I like squirrel fish, I like flashlight fish, a lot of the different weird basilettes that you get from deep water, wrasses, anthias, just a lot of different weird stuff that you just don't see too often. So
nice. So, for someone just starting in the hobby, I mean, what kind of advice would you give them as far as starting? Like certain tank to start with, corals, fish to start with, or just overall just jump into it?
So, like, if I were to restart in this hobby again, or for someone that's starting out currently, the easiest route to go is definitely starting out with like maybe even a fish only, or even some soft corals like Kenya trees, zoanthids, certain things like that, just to get you going because they're a little bit less maintenance than what you do with like some LPS and definitely SPS and NPS. So yeah, definitely a good way to start is just starting out with some easy softies that are super easy to grow. They'll keep you content.
Yeah,
Just
because you can definitely get away with missing some maintenance tasks
Mhm.
here and there with
Yeah.
those types of coral, for sure.
So yeah, like a lot of the soft coral and stuff, certain species actually like remove nutrients as they're growing and such
Yeah.
too. So that can also help out. So yeah, that's what I would recommend.
I started with a fish only system basically as well with a 29-gallon tank, and I had some Oscillarius clowns in there as well. Let's see if this works. But yeah, I went with the black one and the orange one. I thought that would be neat.
For sure.
And yeah, just this one was started with live rock, did just fine. And that was my very first Euphilia coral, frog spawn coral right there, which I actually kept that guy for a while, and he grew
That's all.
multiple heads. So yeah, I quickly progressed too. So I went from a 29-gallon into a 75-gallon tank, and then of course, I mean everything I was learning at the time. You start your tank, throw some blue green chromis in there, get it going, stuff like that. I had chromis, I had clownfish, I had a maroon clownfish at one time, and he was like really mean.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, maroon clownfish are insanely like
super aggressive.
super aggressive, super territorial. If you're watching this on the video podcast, you just saw a powder blue tang or a powder brown tang swim by. Now you see the Midas blenny. That's one fish that's always been on my wife and my radar, is the Midas blenny, because that yellow color, that blue underbelly, it's just an awesome, unique fish to have, and just the way it swims.
Yeah, sticks out from the rest. It's a little different.
Yeah, sure. But this is basically after 2 years of growth. So if you see that large toadstool leather coral there on the previous video at the top left right there, that's that toadstool. So
wow.
Quarter size frag growing into something like dinner plate size, you know. So I was really happy with this tank. And then of course we ended up buying another house, so I had to tear that thing down, and of course I decided to upgrade into a 210 gallon tank, which was a lot of fun for a few. Let's see, 2015 is when I had that tank. So about 5 years or so I had that tank going, and then now I'm with the 125 here at this house.
It's awesome.
But yeah, definitely if you're brand new to the hobby, soft corals, it's a good place to start with corals. Fish only tank in the very beginning when you're learning how to maintain the water quality and you're learning how to keep fish. And the cool thing about this hobby, right, is that you're always learning something, and you can constantly progress.
Yeah, exactly.
So you can take that fish only system, turn it into a coral reef tank, and then you can slowly change that reef tank from soft corals. Maybe you want to go into LPS corals, and then maybe get into SPS. So you can go from softies to mixed reef type thing. Change it up
for sure. Yeah.
But yeah, that's a really quick walkthrough of my reefing journey so far, from a 29 gallon tank to the really big tank, now to the 125. And I think for me the 125 is a more comfortable size. So I really enjoyed the 75 gallon tank. I could reach my hands in the tank anywhere. I can move things around pretty easily and maintain it really easily. With the 210 gallon reef, I was climbing up a ladder, reaching my hand like 31 inches deep. It was just a lot. It got to be too much having a really big tank. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna upgrade to, and when I say the 125 was an upgrade because it was a brand new tank. Every tank before that was a used aquarium.
Okay.
For me.
Yeah.
So do you have a dream size aquarium? Are you comfortable with the sizes that you have, or?
I think I'm kind of comfortable with the sizes that I have. Like I've had the 75 since the beginning. Not the same 75. I had a Oceanic 75 gallon when I first started. It was used. I got it off the store I was working for, and then when I moved to Florida, I ended up purchasing the 75 that I currently have, and I just really like the size. It's like kind of in between everything, easy access, like you said. And it's not too big and it's not too small. It kind of fits in well. So yeah, it's definitely like the size that I'm at right now. I mean, if I got a bigger house eventually, maybe go to like a 125. But I kind of like 75 gallons. It's kind of like that perfect size, in my opinion.
Learning and progressing in the hobby, that's one of the reasons I really love the hobby.
Yeah, for sure.
You're always learning something. There's always, whether that being learning about a different fish that you want to put in your aquarium, or a new coral that you're researching, or even new equipment. There's a ton of new equipment that we both had the opportunity to see at Reefapalooza. There's always
for sure
coming out. But yeah, so this is going to be a new format here on the Coral Reef Talk, where Levi, the oddball reefer, and I are going to bring you a video podcast episode. So if you're watching it back on the replay, or you're listening to it in audio form, I hope you'll definitely check out the next episode, as we're going to be touching on more reef aquarium topics. This was just a deep dive, or more of a quick look at how we got started and our first aquariums. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have any questions for us, leave them in the show note or the comments down below, and be sure to like and subscribe. Follow the Oddball Reefers YouTube channel as well, and make sure you follow the Coral Reef Talk podcast, and we'll catch you in the next one.
See you guys.